And to me, it was very clear that the construction industry, and more specifically the dirt world, was the place that I wanted to invest my time and our team's time, our resources, and our passion to. And so from that point on, we said anyone that was working with us that wasn't in construction, we had to let go. And then any future clients that want to work with us that weren't in construction, we had to refuse. So it was a tough time to do that, but I think seeing the mission and the long-term vision really helped us stay on course there and stick with our niche, which is the dirt world.
Welcome everybody to the Construction MF'ers podcast. I am Scott Peper, founder and CEO of Mobilization Funding. I am excited today to bring you a friend, a guest, someone who I know well and I've talked to, been on their show, done a webinar with. I want to introduce Luke Eggebraaten. He is the founder and president of 𝗟𝘂𝗸𝗲 Marketing, and today he is going to discuss with us all things dirt world, construction, marketing, and why it is critical for you to market your dirt world company. Luke, welcome to the show.
Scott, thank you so much for having me on, man. I've been looking forward to this, and I'm glad we could be sitting here today.
Me too. So from starting this company in Minnesota to moving out in the cold, to moving out to Arizona, Gilbert, Arizona in the sun, like all things marketing, man, you're doing lots of cool stuff. I've seen you with the podcast. I've actually been on the webinar. I know you're very focused in the marketing business. You've written a book on marketing in the dirt world. Let's jump right in and just tell me how you got into the marketing aspect and why did you focus on construction?
Yeah, so it's kind of two different stories with the marketing and then with the construction side of it. So, grew up in Minnesota, like you said, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, then went to school in Mankato, Minnesota. Got a typical 4-year college degree in sport management, which is nothing what I'm doing right now. But when I graduated, I knew I always wanted to start a business in some case. I loved flipping things on Craigslist. I would buy a dirt bike or a go-kart or a dune buggy and toss a coat of paint on it, clean it up, and then resell it for, $600 more or $400 more. And really loved that aspect of making my own money and making my own decisions. So at some point I knew, okay, starting a business would be awesome. But when I graduated college, I got a job at an orthodontic practice in Omaha, Nebraska, which sounds super random, going from sport management, wanting to do business, and then getting a job at an ortho practice. However, the doctor, Dr. Stevens, was just an incredible man, friend, and just leader, and he was very growth oriented. And so when he brought me in, he was like, Luke, I want you to take over our marketing and also work with all of our new patients. And I was like, okay, like now we're talking. That sounds like a lot of fun and not what I first had thought of the job. So we get in, and essentially my job was to half of my job was to manage this digital marketing agency that he had hired out in California. And I was like, yeah, sweet. So I got to know them. They were incredible. And so a few reasons they made me look good because they did all the work and I got to accept the glory essentially of like, oh, Luke's crushing it. But I wasn't really doing much except helping get them what they need. But then on top of it too, they were incredibly personable and just so fun to work with and talk to. And then they also helped us achieve our goals as a practice. So I was like, man, I should start a digital marketing agency. And because I just loved their whole business model, and they were niched down in ortho practices. And so in 2019, so I started there in 2018. 2019, I was still working there. I started 𝗟𝘂𝗸𝗲 Marketing on the side with the goal of, I'm not going to pay myself a penny out of this until I can go full time. And that's just, I'm very risk averse. I wanted to start my own business, but I also knew that I didn't want to take this giant leap with a bunch of debt and, kind of put some other things in jeopardy. And so I was like, I can do this on the nights, weekends, and my lunch breaks. I can figure it out and I can have a little bit of delayed gratification here so that we can build something very successful or try to. And as we went through the years, when we got to 2021, that's when my wife Olivia accepted a job at Carvana in Arizona. And so the decision was, okay, yep, we're going to move down to AZ in August of 2021. And at that point, I was like, it had been running Phaser for really about a year and a half. We were doing about $8,000 a month in revenue, and expenses were probably about 6K or so. I was always trying to over deliver for clients and not worry so much about our profit line. And it came to the point of, should I get another job or should I go full time? And when we moved, we just made that decision of let's just try this thing. And so moved to Arizona, left my job, of course, and then went full time with Phaser. And my first ever paycheck was $500 on August 14th. And every 2 weeks, I got a $500 check that I wrote to myself from the business. So it was the coolest feeling, and was so excited. And at that time, we had about 7 or 8 clients, and 3 or 4 of them were in the demolition and excavation space. And I had been doing some coaching now that I was full time, and they said, Luke, if you want to make an impact on an industry, make an impact on your life and your employees and your business, like, you have to niche down so that you can become an expert in one industry. And to me, it was very clear that the construction industry, and more specifically the dirt world, was the place that I wanted to invest my time and our team's time, our resources, and our passion to. And so from that point on, we said anyone that was working with us that wasn't in construction, we had to let go. And then any future clients that want to work with us that weren't in construction, we had to refuse. So it was a tough time to do that, but I think seeing the mission and the long-term vision really helped us stay on course there and stick with our niche, which is the dirt world.
I love that story. And I actually got to tell you, I'm actually really jealous hearing you say that. It's not something I'm not jealous. I'm not really a jealous person, and jealous is probably the wrong word. I'm just using that because I think it can make my point in a second. But I'm 48. I'll be 49 this year. I think I got a few years on you probably, but you mentioned 3 things as you open that up. You talked about risk averse, which I would challenge you. I would say you're probably not risk averse. Starting your own business is pretty risky, but you're smart, and you've had good coaching or education somewhere. And the fact that you said delayed gratification, very few people use that term or understand that term, what that is, especially as entrepreneurs. And then niche down, where you have to get great at something.
Yeah.
Where did you learn those 2 things this soon in your entrepreneur career?
Yeah. So first thing, I guess, on the risk averse, the way I looked at it was, I thought, for me, myself personally, I thought staying in a job was riskier for me. And so yes, starting a business can and is risky. I agree with that. But I also agree that there's ways to start businesses and grow businesses where you're keeping the cash in and you're understanding your market first before you dive head first. And so I like to use the analogy of, I didn't want to just dive off the dock head first and try and hit a boat out there. I wanted to pull the boat closer to the dock so I could just take a step onto it. And that way I had 2 years under my belt of, like, running this business, not paying myself, but understanding how to invoice customers, how to deliver for customers, and also just how to do taxes and how to hire contractors and all of this stuff. So to me, going in my own business was actually less risky because I knew that I could do it a bit safer. And now as we're growing and scaling, there's more risk than ever, I would say. But we try and do everything with data and with knowledge of, like, where we want to go and how we want to get there. And we're not just blindly throwing darts at the wall. So that's definitely been big. And then, yeah, I have to give so much credit. So a quick story on this of how I learned of niching down and all of those things that I had mentioned. So when I went full time in August, we had just moved to Arizona. I'd never even been to the state when we first moved there. So it's all brand new, but I knew it'd be a good time. And I knew that, okay, I need to connect myself with other business owners or entrepreneurs, because I couldn't even pretend to know what I was doing, like growing and scaling a business that I've never done. So I reached out on LinkedIn. I know you're a big LinkedIn fan, and so am I. I reached out on LinkedIn to a guy named Tony Ricketts. He owned a marketing agency for lawn care companies, and he was based out of Florida. And I just thought, man, this guy's got such a badass business. I should reach out to him and just see if he has any book recommendations or anything I can do to help me in this journey, because I just went full time. and he said, Luke, I'm going to send you a book. It's called The Seven-Figure Agency Roadmap. It's a book for marketing agencies trying to grow, and I think you'll love it. It's the guy that wrote it. It's a guy named Josh Nelson. Read it. Let me know what you think. And so I did. I read it and I hit him up. I was like, Tony, this book makes so much sense. It like is one of those books similar to yours, Scott, where you don't hold anything back and all the value is just in the book. So I don't even have to hire you or hire this Josh Nelson, because all the value is in the book. But then you want more, and you're like, I am so in line with what you're saying that I want more. And so I messaged Tony and said, I love it. Like, this is exactly what I need. And he said, okay, so we do 3 masterminds a year in Miami. I'm going in November. You can be my guest if you want. Just check it out. You can make your own decision. You don't have to pay. Just pay for your flights. And as a new entrepreneur full time, I'm like, I'm there no matter what. I was in such a yes mood. And I'm like, I'm there. And so I flew out to Miami, didn't know a single person there. But what I found was there were 200 marketing agency owners in Miami for the same event at this mastermind. And I was just blown away. Everyone was so transparent, and they talked about where they're at in monthly recurring revenue, what their problems are, what they can do to help solve each other's problems. And I fell in love with the group and the people there. And so, and the funny thing is because remember, I'm paying myself $1,000 a month, and we probably have $1,000 left over of profit. And I fly home, and to join the coaching program, like the full blown program, it's $1,500 a month. And so as you can imagine, I fly home, I tell my wife, Olivia, okay, you're going to think I'm crazy. It's going to sound like a cult, and I went off my whole spiel of like, I think I need to be a part of this group. It's expensive, but just like, trust me, I think it's what I need. And she somehow said, if you believe it, go for it. I'll support you with that. But we're going to check in every month or every 2 months just to make sure that you're getting the best use out of your investment. And then fast forward to today, I've been a part of the group for over 2 years. I've been to Miami 8 times now, meeting with those agency owners, and it's completely transformed my life, my business, my outlook on the construction industry, and just where we're going as a business. So it was an absolute game changer. And that was probably one of the riskiest things I've done, I would say.
I love that. Well, I'm just going to tell you right now, that investment saved you 10 to 12 years if you were working on my timeline easily. And I can tell you that with 100% certainty, because I sat at a company getting promoted, making a great income for a decade longer with that like annoyance feeling, like aggravation, not happy, but couldn't figure it out. Like, making money, more candidly, more money than I ever thought. And even having success, awards, I mean, whatever metric you could possibly measure from a corporate perspective, I was checking those boxes. And I don't say that from an egotistical standpoint. I say it from the standpoint of like, why wouldn't I be happy? And I couldn't figure it out. And I did have the entrepreneurial itch, all the same things that you had, but I'm telling you, I knew I also didn't have these principles in place. Like I knew it, like when I tried to translate it over, I even spent the first 5 years of mobilization funding, making these mistakes, doing these things. And it wasn't until I actually invested in coaching to put some dots together for me and connect some dots that I was like, oh, that makes sense. They do that. Or that was, these principles that I understood and knew or heard before, but didn't know how to implement or think to implement, or didn't know what sequence they should be in, or even that I should be paying attention to them. And when I did, all those things really changed. Just again, engaging customers. And of course, at that point, the time I spent in corporate America wasn't a waste. I could leverage all
Right.
those experience. I just knew how to use it now. And so when I said I was jealous of you, I was more jealous of like you figuring it out 12 years sooner. And it's also a passion of mine to help people figure it out sooner. So you can, you don't have to be, yeah, well, you are whatever you're going to be. You don't have to be certain
Yeah.
older age or whatever age. You could just get there quicker and make a bigger impact faster. But those are two key things, man, particularly delayed gratification. And I talk about that all the time because the biggest mistakes we see a lot of construction business owners do is take money out too soon or take too
Yep.
much money out too soon.
And to your point there too, especially in construction is a totally different animal. Like I can't even compare my business to a construction company because with cash flow and especially delayed gratification, if you take that money out and you're growing, like you're just going to need more cash for the next project that's bigger than your last three combined. And you just can't do it. Even if you leave the cash in, sometimes you can't do it. So, especially getting a grasp on your numbers, which is what your book and what your team helps so many companies do. And I want to mention this too, especially as we're talking about surrounding yourself with coaches or with people that have been there. That's what we're doing on a different scale, a lower scale with the Dirtbags podcast. And we brought you in as a speaker for our Dirtbags University webinar. And the cool thing about that is, we packed the room. I think we had 58 construction company owners attending this webinar that they paid $20 for to attend a Zoom webinar on a Monday night. But that's the thing. It's like they're surrounding themselves with people that want to learn more, want to grow their business. And most of these dirt bags, like all of us, are under the age of 39 is what we've seen. Most of them are under the age of 30 that are jumping in on this, and they want that community. They want to build a successful business, but they don't know where to go or where to start. And so we're trying to provide that, especially with bringing in professional speakers such as yourself, but addressing the problems that they're having in their business. So I think that's another thing is the topics that we bring up. It's not talking about things that they don't need. It's addressing what's the biggest problem right now. And a couple months ago when we brought you in, it was like cash flow was everywhere and everyone was struggling with it seemingly. And so I think one of our next ones we're doing is recruiting and how can you hire for your construction company? How can you build hiring systems? And it's just very exciting to continue to try and serve the industry by bringing in experts and professionals that are good at their craft.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, education, it's especially specific once you get out of school, you're in your career, like the specific educational tools and information that you need to be successful in your job or in your role at a company or as an entrepreneur trying to figure it out. It's so critical. It has such a higher value to it when you get it and you see it and it helps you that it's unreal at the power that it unlocks compared to like general schooling where you have to get a baseline of knowledge to, just get to be 18 and then to be 22 and 25. You just need certain baselines of knowledge and experience along the way. But when you're getting specific education for something that you've now designed yourself to do or put yourself on a path for, it has so much more value and meaning to it. It's even when someone gives me a book that unlocks something for me, it's like you have so much gratitude for that, different than you would when you just got books you had to read for assignments and do a book report on. It's cool. And I think what happens is you get so disenchanted, or at least I speak for myself, you get disenchanted on education sometimes because you never knew how to put it to use, or it was like, okay, so what? I can't even remember half the stuff I learned. But when you get it now and you use it and then you see it impact somebody's life, your team's life, your customers' lives, whatever, it is cool. So that, and the reason we do the Construction MF'ers podcast and content on our YouTube channel is for that purpose, to educate people to help avoid the mistakes, the things we've learned. We have a unique perspective, as do you, seeing, you don't get to see behind the doors of one construction company that you own. You see behind multiple, the dozens, and so for us, we've seen thousands of construction projects cash flow. We know what makes one look good and what makes one look bad. We know what problems can occur. We not only do we know, but we've lived through them with somebody, and so sharing that knowledge to help someone skip 10 years, 5 years, 4 years ahead, or avoid a major problem for the people that are open and ready to learn is a huge gift.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the format of the podcast too, because it's not a sales pitch, it's sheer value. It's like you can listen if you want. If you don't, that's fine. But the people that want to listen to this show, to our show, it's they want to learn something, they want to be entertained, they want to consume. And it's just so cool that you can use that platform to try and add value and to try and help them be a bit more successful in their business. And the nice thing about both of our shows is that they're so niche down. So people know that this is our community. This is where we belong. And the content that they're talking about is probably going to be relevant to my business because of how niche down it is.
Yeah, it's in I've noticed that with the feedback we get as well too, that the audience is very niche also. It's very specifically construction. So let's talk about that for a second here. So now we got a construction business owner. They're trying to figure out marketing, like cash flow. Well, not like cash, but like lending or like trying to get a lender, borrowing money. Marketing is probably right there along the lines, like the last things that they're thinking they should do, want to do, or have a desire to do. So why should someone market their construction business?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what I love about it is it's different for many different people. And what I like to say, there's a couple things I like to say to try and structure that answer for them or help them find that answer, I should say. The first is it's just a simple question. Do you feel like your website accurately represents the history of your company, what you guys provide, and the value that you provide to your customers and your clients? Most of the time it's a resounding no. It's like, no, it was built it 6 years ago and it's shit. Like it doesn't represent the 40 years we've been in business or the 8 years we've built this thing from the ground up and what the work we put in. So it's like, okay, sweet. So at the very least, we can agree that it doesn't paint a good image of your company. It doesn't accurately represent your company. The second thing is I like to look long term in almost every scenario and say, what is the future of this business? What's the succession plan? And let's just say somebody is 65 running a company and they just want to liquidate and be done. I totally understand that. That's totally fine. That marketing your business probably doesn't have as much of an impact with what they want to do. They have more work than they can handle. They don't want to grow and they just want to get out of the business. However, I'd say probably 80% of the people I talk to don't have that vision and they want to at least build a business where they can reap the benefits or get the fruit from it. And they can also potentially pass it down to kids, grandkids, maybe exit the business or sell it. But to do that, the business needs to have systems involved and it needs to be running like a business, not like the owner's job. And that's a big jump for a lot of business owners going from I'm doing everything and I've got all the sticky notes and I've got everything up in my head to now, oh, I can take 2 weeks off to go to, let's say, a conference and we can still make revenue. Stuff can still get done. Problems can be solved without me there. And that is a big point of what we do with marketing, but it's just one small slice of the pie. So I never say that marketing is the end all be all. Like you need to be on digital. You need to stop everything else you're doing. Like I think that's not the right way to go about it. But what I say is that maybe it's 10 to 20% of the pie. And do you agree that more and more people are going digital, like using the internet? I mean, that's a simple question to answer. And also, if we're trying to build this business to survive and to be a legacy for the next 10, 20, 30 years, how do you keep up with that? How do you keep up with the economic turns? And how do you keep up with hiring employees for this business? And also, too, you may not always be fed all this work from these GCs every single year. Like, how do you make sure that you're also taking care of yourself and taking care of your business and the future of the business? And so that's kind of a long-winded like legacy discussion. but I think it can really help reframe the mindset of like, why did I get in business in the first place? Am I just trying to overwork myself and then liquidate and not make much on my entire investment? Or am I trying to build something that's bigger than me and pass it down potentially through generations?
Yeah. I like that. And I like the way you laid that out. One of the things that I always found, and this happened in our business, that I always try to share with construction companies and tell them why you should get into marketing. And candidly, I think the story goes very well with cash flow and profit as
Yep.
well,
Yep.
and recruiting. Because if you want to recruit the next level talent to your organization, whether it's young or old, you need to be showing them and telling them the stories and the stories of who you are, what you're about, what you do, how you do it. They need to see it. They need to feel it. If you lined up just anyone in your organization to do that, not everybody's going to be able to do that the same, right? Some people, you as the owner may be able to tell that story better than someone who just started, right?
Yep.
Or maybe a new salesperson or whoever interacted. Now you push that culture down, but I think as you can market, you manage that message in a very unique fashion, and you do it in the best possible way for the reasoning and benefit of people that are watching your brand or seeing you. And it's people that want to come to work with you or for you or around you. They're going to do their own due diligence now because of the internet. That's just the facts of life. So you want that story, that idea of what they're creating in their head to be properly understood. And so doing that is one reason. Cash flow, for example, making profit, you'd be amazed at what kind of company you can have, the kind of incentives you
Yes.
can do, the kind of things you can do for your employees and your team and your customers when you actually make money versus not make money. And then if you're going to try to recruit the top talent, you want to have both of those things, right? You want to have the manage the right story, and you want to have great employee benefits and on options and things that you can do for your company and your team and your customers that you're trying to attract. You need to be profitable to do that. You can invest those profitable dollars that you've made back into your customer and your team. And so they all go hand in hand, and that's why they're all so important. But I do think it's a missing piece of the marketing aspect that some people don't realize is the management of the story that someone's telling about you can be very much controlled when you are doing it yourself. Now, the rest of your company has to live that too, but not everyone, you can have a company full of people that are great at living it, but not everybody's great at telling it. And so by managing the message of who tells the story the best, you can then make it easier on your whole team to not have to go through those hurdles. And what we found at Mobilization Funding and doing this too, for us, that was such a surprise I never realized, was when people would call, all of a sudden they knew who I was, they knew who we were, they knew what we
Yep.
did. We didn't have to do all this like small talk or try to explain it, or this, what usually would be an hour-long call might have been only 20 minutes. And so like
Right.
all this time that you invested in marketing, I guess, or education is given back to you tenfold in the people choosing to talk to you versus you trying to sell someone or try to convince someone.
Yeah, and I think so much of it's a bigger piece too, because so many people think marketing means leads, and that is so far from what marketing
Ah,
is. Because I love this because I had somebody say, I don't need, this is a construction company, I don't need marketing, I just need to hire more people. And I'm like, well, how do you think these people are going to find you or want to work with you? And so much of that goes back to marketing. And it's not the end all be all, but it has to be a bit of a focus in your company with whatever you want to do, whether it's the community perception of your business and how you help the community, whether it's the clients you're attracting that you want to work with, whether it's the next generation that they want to come work with you and build this thing, and really showcasing that mission of where do you want to go and how do you want to get there and who do you want to do it with. But marketing's been a huge piece of that, and it's one of those things too where word of mouth marketing is and always will be the most important piece of marketing. And what digital marketing does, like what we focus on, it only helps accentuate that or make it even better. And so how people can refer you to others, how people can find you, and then on top of it, finding those new people that can be future referral sources, future word of mouth referrals. And just making sure that you're presenting your company in the right light online, because you never know who's going to need your services. And I heard somebody say this the other day. I was at a septic conference and they were saying, who would you want your daughter to work with as a contractor as their first experience? Do you want that to be, company A, or a company like yours that is going to take care of them? And so there is a bit of that mission too, of making sure that the clients are well taken care of and that they come to you first. And then if you can't work with them, let's say you're overworked, then you send them to the right person that is going to take care of them. And that's just being a resource first and a septic company second, or an excavation company second. So making sure that you're taking care of the client, the GC, whoever it is, making sure you're plugging in the right team, whether that's your team or somebody else that you refer to them.
Yeah. I told the client, to your point, exactly, a few weeks ago, they're like talking about their marketing. I was talking about trying to get to a new customer, and they really were trying to get contracts with this large prime working on at the airport. And I said to them, I said, well, what are you doing about it? And they're like, well, I bid every job, but I don't get it. I go, okay, well, think about it. Let's reverse roles. You're the large prime and you're trying to hire a new contractor. Who are you going to hire? Well, I'm going to hire my friends and people I know. Okay, great. Well, do you know them? No. Okay, great. Well, are they on LinkedIn? Yeah. What if they watched you for the next 18 months, start and finish every job? They're like, well, how are they going to know that? They're not going to come to my job. I'm like, you're right. But they will watch you post about it every week. They will watch you show up on their feed. They will see you build the building, clear a lot, whatever it is you do. They will watch you execute that time and time again. And if you're transparent and candid about it, they're going to give you a shot because they actually do know you. They did watch you. They did see you. They did hear you. They saw all those things, and you're going to get a look.
Yeah. And to your point there about being transparent and candid, showcasing the problems that you run into on the job site. I think we don't do that enough as companies, is showcasing the problems and how we're solving them, and just being transparent and showing, because that's where you're really going to learn the most. And honestly, I think that's where you gain the most respect, even if you're not looking for it, of just, this was a bad day, but here's how we dealt with it. And this is what happened. We hit this line and now this is how we fixed it. And just learning from your problems. And I think as a GC, or as whoever is watching you on LinkedIn, or whoever's watching you on any platform, seeing how you overcome those obstacles and just not being afraid to share about it. And that can take you a long way. But to your point there of not being afraid to showcase what you do on LinkedIn and playing the long game. You said 18 months. Most people would cringe at that and say, well, I need work today. But if we're trying to build a business, we got to look out 18 months, 2 years, 5 years, and say, how are we going to make this thing a business instead of just revenue coming in each month and focusing month to month?
Yeah, that's the transactional thought process mindset versus a long-term life value of a person, and if you candidly, we can't help too many people that really think of things transactionally, because it's just not what we're looking to do. It's not who we're trying to partner with. They're not the people we can really help the best, candidly. So I think construction companies and any business should think of it more, how can I think long-term value that I can provide for whatever relationship I'm going into, whether it's your lender, your marketing person, your next customer, your employee. Doing the right thing for the right person at the right time will always pan out for you. And then if you do it that way, what you'll realize ultimately, if you can trust that we're telling you the right things here, you'll find that it gets a lot easier. Things that are hard for you don't stay hard, and they actually get easier. Like when the great prime refers you to the other great prime and you just are in now, totally different ball game than trying to climb that mountain one step at a time every time.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I feel like when you have those positive habits and you continue working at it, those parts of the business get easier, where you're building that trust with those people and those connections, and you're doing the right thing consistently. And if you do the wrong thing, you're transparent about it. Over time, that part will get easier. And I've talked to a lot of marketing agencies, especially that are just starting out, and just giving them, they're asking for advice. And a lot of it is just, you gotta get that first one and then over deliver for them. Over deliver, go above and beyond, get a solid like Google review, build that rapport, and then go get the next one. Like it's gonna be a slow kind of grind one at a time, but making sure you're doing the right things, taking the right steps, and that's where just the long game comes in of that delayed gratification. You're not gonna have the big wave right at the beginning. It's gonna take some time, but then as you break through that, it gets a bit easier to have those conversations and to bring on those clients and ultimately to pivot and to scale your business.
Yeah. Luke, have you ever heard of the story of the Chinese bamboo tree?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh, this is great. And I'll tell you this quickly because this is beneficial. But the point you just made is fantastic. But the Chinese bamboo tree is this amazing plant tree, and you can grab it, and it's this tiny seed, and you plant it in the ground, and you have to care for it, and you have to nurture it each and every day with the right amount of water, getting the right amount of sun. And you do that for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. In the fifth year, you've been planting this thing and planting this thing and planting this thing and taking care of it. One day it sprouts in year 5 out of the dirt. And over the next 6 weeks, it grows to 95 feet tall. But if
Sheesh.
you screw up along the way and you don't care for it, nurture it, you'll never see the fruits of that labor. And so delayed gratification, doing the right thing, and planning out for the long haul. I think everybody would love to have a 95-foot tree at a 5-year period. They probably just
Yeah,
want to see 20 feet a year. But at the end of the day, if you're really thinking 5 years out, do you care?
man, I love
And
that. What a great story.
yeah, and it's the coolest story about a tree, a real life living thing, and that's just the truth. So it's like that in business. It's probably one of the greatest analogies I ever heard. Credit to the Arete Syndicate and specifically Andy Frisella, who told us that story when I heard that for the first time. And it made a lot of sense. It helped me a lot. I've never forgot it. I've thought about it many, many, many hard days when I didn't feel like doing something. And it's just a cool, when you were talking about that, it just reminded me of that. And if you hadn't heard it, I figured I'd tell you now too.
Dude, and especially for anyone listening too. I mean, that's just such a great story. And Andy Frisella is the best. I love him. I know you've done 75 hard. I just did it. My wife just finished it. And it's just yeah, he's got a great show as well.
Yeah, he does. Um, so you're doing a lot of things. You got the book's out, been out for a year now. We talked about the webinar, the podcast. You before the show, we were just talking about some of the different people you brought on now, full time from part time, and et cetera, and growing. What's next for you? What are your long-term, short-term goals? Like where do you want to see Phaser Marketing in the next 5 years?
Man, I love that. So funny enough, I set a 5-year goal 3 years ago. So I'm gonna say it's a 2-year goal now because I gotta stick with it. So 2-year goal would be, let's see, it's at the time of this recording, we're heading into April 2024. So 2020, actually it's 2027 would be when my 5-year goal ends. I want to be able to write $100,000 check to an organization or a nonprofit. And the reason I had it structured like that is instead of saying I want Phaser to be at 5 million revenue, I want it to be easy to write $100,000 check, which would mean we have to be doing whatever amount that is. So I think focusing on giving in the next couple years, especially when we hit that 5-year goal mark, I want to just do it and feel so excited to give it because I've already spoken into existence. I've written it down. It's been a 5-year goal. So I'm very, very excited for that. As far as Phaser, so right now, like I said, April 2024, we're at about 56 full-time clients that work with us. They're all program based, so they work with us long term. And by the end of 2024, we'd like to be at about 84 clients. So scaling up, but nothing too crazy. We're not trying to conquer the world. We're trying to over deliver for our clients. And another big goal for us this year is we're bringing more pieces in-house. So typically I've run my businesses where, similar to what we talked about earlier in the podcast, a bit more risk averse, where we work with a lot of 1099 contractors, and I've really enjoyed doing that because I can hire experts and just pay them hourly, but not have to be committed to 40 hours a week, 160 hours a month, and pay benefits. So since day one of starting Phaser, when we had $0 in revenue, we would bring on contractors. And I have a team of probably 9 amazing contractors that have worked with me over 3.5 years. And we're starting now to bring some of those pieces in-house full time. And what that'll help with is through the last few years, we've been building out our own systems, our own SOPs, and really just making sure that the clients we're working with, they're getting us at our best. I think they've gotten us at where we've been very good, but I think we can continue to go above and beyond for them. So that's going to be a big focus this year. As far as the Dirtbags platform, so Dirtbags podcast, Dirtbags University, we've got some really big goals. That's actually its own business. And so Luke Payne and I, we set it up as its own LLC when we started it 2 years ago. I think last year we did about 30K in revenue, and this year we're trying to scale that up to about 150. And a portion of that comes from the webinar, portion of that comes from ad sponsors and just some speaking things we do. So really trying to make that into a respectable platform and a business where it's a double-sided marketplace where our listeners are very happy with the sponsors we bring on and the value that they provide. And also the sponsors we bring on are very happy because of the people that listen to the show and the respect that they have for them and for us. And so excited to take that up a notch. I think in the next 5 years, I think the Dirtbags platform will outperform Phaser, Luke's business, Western Excavation, all of our businesses combined. I think it's going to end up being kind of the powerhouse of our businesses, which would be very exciting. And because I think that has a much more focus on delivering value, but you can syndicate it out so much easier because of its platform and social media and the podcast. So very, very excited for that. And then we've got, I guess, one other one is we've got our Phaser fundraiser this year. We do our Black Tie Gala. It's in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. If anyone wants to attend, just let me know. It's August 8th. It's a Thursday. That's our 3rd annual one. So we raise money for the Boys and Girls Club. We get dressed up, have drinks, entertainment, all that stuff. And it's a good time. And then the other one I'm most excited about is we have a scholarship for my high school in Detroit Lakes. And that is dedicated only for somebody going into the trades. And so it's the 4th year we've done that. And it's just so cool to, we're not trying to reform the entire industry, but we're trying to do a little piece to help. And a lot of it starts in the schools, I think, where most people think it's glorified to go 4-year university, go get educated. If you go start in the trades or you're in construction, that's kind of a second option. I want to help a little bit to reverse that of saying, no, this is like a primary option. And going to the trades, we need people. You can get paid very well. It can be a great career path, and it can be something that is a passion of yours. So our scholarship is for that person, somebody that is specifically going to a trade school. So that's been a big goal. In the next 2 or 3 years, I'd like to get that to a full ride. And so that way everything's covered from their materials, their books, their tuition for a 2-year trade school. So got a little bit of work to do there, but that's the goal.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I really love that. Well, you'll have to give us the information on that so we can put that here in the show notes and let everybody know how they can help contribute to those things, as well as find you and locate you, which we'll do that for sure. But I think your mission and goal on trying to help someone get to trade school and providing a scholarship for that is awesome. It's such a cool idea and way to give back.
Yeah, thank you. And it's been really cool too. Like we've talked about, just the transparency. I try and share everything that we do in our business, and you just never know. And I have a good friend, Isaac Bowen. He's in Colorado, and he's like, dude, how did you set up a scholarship? Like, how long did that take? I'm like, call the school, say, how can I give you money for kids and they will help you. And he's like, okay. And he did. And he set up his first scholarship last year for the construction industry for his school. And I'm like, man, if I can just help one other business person or one other student or whoever it is, just take a next step in whatever that might be, that's a massive win for what I'm trying to do. So seeing that really put some more gas in my tank. I'm like, dang, this is really cool that other people are kind of catching on to this and saying like, I want to be a part of this as well. And yeah, that gets me more juiced up than any marketing or anything else that we do.
I love that. All right, so I'm going to shift to the last section of our show here. I'm going to rip through 4 or 5 questions for you. And first thought comes to your mind, you give us the answer, okay?
Okay. Okay.
All right. What's the best advice you've ever received on a construction site?
Roller hot dogs and Monster is fuel.
That's so good. I love that. What is the most bold or adventurous thing you've ever done?
I would say 2023, my wife and I, Olivia and I, we had a goal of running marathon. We're not runners. And so we just threw it on the schedule for December and we ran our first and last marathon in Hawaii in December.
Ooh, nice.
So that was kind of our reward. We're like, if we're gonna do this thing, we're not gonna do it in Nebraska. We're gonna go somewhere where we can like really enjoy the view.
That's awesome. Was it a great trip?
Amazing. We spent 7 days, did Oahu on the marathon was there, and then we spent a couple days in Maui and did the marathon. And yeah, like I said, probably the last one.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can attest to the marathon running being one and done.
Yeah.
For sure. I would that if I was going to run a marathon, that's how I would do it. One and done. But I don't have a desire to do that
It
at
was
all.
totally a bucket list thing. So we just wanted to cross it off and we're very proud that we did it. But yeah, not we didn't get the runner's high that people talk about.
Yeah. If I was going to do one though, I think Hawaii would be a good way to get me to compete. It'd be a definite advantage to getting me to say yes, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What is your favorite book of all time?
Easy. The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber. I read this right as I was starting my business. It was actually Phaser Marketing. That wasn't the first name I had. I actually had an Instagram profile created that was LE Marketing, and it stood for Luke Eggebraaten Marketing. I was going to be the guy. I was going to do everything, website, graphic design, you name it. And I read that book and I had to scrap everything. But it's the best book I've ever read, the most impactful. If you're thinking about starting a business, if you have a business, if you're 20 years into running a business, it really helps you understand the differences between a technician, a manager, and an entrepreneur, and how each of those is so important in every business. But yeah, by far that's my favorite.
It's so good. I mean, the fingerprints of that book are all over my life, all over Mobilization Funding. About what we talk about, it's such a good book. I mean, it should be a requirement for any entrepreneur, candidly, because it'll help. It's another thing. You want to save years off your life, years off the journey. There's a hack for you. Read that book.
Yeah, and I know you didn't ask for 2, but I'm gonna say a second one. I just finished this book, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Incredible. Very similar. It changed the way I think about a lot of things, and he structured it so well where he's not saying like, oh, only work 4 hours and don't do anything else, like go golf. He's saying go do what you want to do. So for a lot of us, that is working. I love working. I love business, but he's just showing you how to buy back more of your time so you can do the things you want to do and not be stuck in some of the other things that you get stuck in the weeds. So that book has been incredible. I'm implementing some things into my life and business right now from that, but definitely the E-Myth and Buy Back Your Time. If you read those 2, it'll change everything for you.
I love it. So this is not one of the questions, but I have to ask you, have you ever read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill?
Not yet. No.
Luke, you got to grab
I'm writing
that.
it down.
Yeah. Like this is a book that with the path you've on, the things we've talked about today, I honestly thought you probably would have read that book already, but there was something about me telling me you didn't. And I'm like,
Yeah.
going to hand you this amazing new gift that like you should just put down whatever you finish reading, put it right to the front of the line. When you call me 2 chapters in, you're going to be like, thank you so much. I can't believe I didn't see this one yet. Like,
Dude, that's what I need to hear. I mean, I love that. I am not a huge reader, but the few books I have read in the last couple years, it's changed everything. So now I'm like getting more into it, and especially doing 75 hard, I cruise through like 5 or 6 books because you had to. Like, man, this is why people love reading, because you can
yeah.
learn so much from this. So definitely getting that book, and yeah, we'll let you know how it goes.
I'm just going to tell you this much. If there's only one book to ever read, it's that book. If you only read one
Wow,
book, can't read it anymore, that's the one you read.
that's a statement. I love it.
So like, there you go. Like hammer that. And I look forward to seeing your email probably like right after chapter 2.
Sweet.
Last question. You got to pick one: a crane, a bulldozer, or an excavator.
I would say excavator, actually.
Yeah.
I have a weird fascination with all sizes too. And so I think even just seeing like some of the mini excavators, like some of the really, really small ones, like for some reason I get a kick out of them. But I'm like, man, that is so cool how it's got, and then you got your big brother next to it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I would say an excavator.
And those puppies just keep getting bigger too. As
Yeah,
soon
oh,
as you
yeah.
saw the biggest one, there's another one that comes out and you're like, geez,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's awesome. Well, Luke, I appreciate you spending the time with us this morning and getting on our show and going through this recording. I'm certain there'll be more than a few nuggets people will pull out of this one to use in their business, implement in their life. And I just want to be very grateful and thank you for joining and sharing your story, your knowledge and wisdom so far. And let everybody know where they can find you. You put out lots of great content, more specific marketing content, how you can do it, where you can do it, what you should do. Let people know how they can find you. What's the best ways?
Yeah. So I would say best ways to contact me, honestly, I've been saying this more and more, is just shoot me a text. I don't do email very well. So my cell number is 218-234-7345. I also have my number in the back of my book. Just because if somebody has a question or wants to get a hold of me, I want it to be as easy as possible. And so shoot me a text. Also, you can DM me on any of my social media profiles. So Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Either Luke Eggebraaten or Phaser Marketing. I manage both of those. Like you said, very active on there. I try and give as much value as possible. And then also too, just listening to the Dirtbags podcast. We come out with episodes every 2 weeks. And then about every 8 weeks, we have our Dirtbags University webinars. So it's great to get involved in that ecosystem. There's so many smart people in construction that either listen to the show or help contribute. And so you can really learn a lot just by being engaged in that group. And then, yeah, I'd say my favorite that you could follow along with would be LinkedIn, and shoot me a message on there if you ever have any questions. My book, The Digital Dirt World, is on Amazon. You can order that. I think it's $18.99. And then finally, our website is phasermarketing.com. So we keep everything updated, keep it fresh, but definitely don't feel like a stranger. Reach out to me anytime. And yeah, excited to talk with you all.
I love it. Thanks, man. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please share the show, share the knowledge, share the information. Come connect with both Luke and I on LinkedIn, our YouTube channel, our books, whatever helps. Please share the show. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. Have a great week, and God bless you.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it, man.
You too. Take care, Luke.